kitchen here, which I
Yes.
adore. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
is so heartwarming, and I mean the thing to me is that there's this big long like farm table, like you knew like
Mhm.
this was such a gathering place for a family,
Yes.
and you can sort of imagine how it used to be before the war. Um, and you had two decorators or one? You two?
Well, that's a complicated story.
Yeah.
Um, so we had, I started with one who, for personal reasons, exited quite soon in the process.
Mhm.
And
And she
then
took over.
and then I I'm quite you get two schools of designers, production designers, those who are sort of very intensely involved in set decorating and they feel that that's part of the whole world, and those who are really comfortable just focusing on architecture and locations. And I'm one of those designers who very much is all over set decorating.
Mm.
So with that in mind, we were coming up to some big sets. So I kind of took on the mantle of sort of principal set decorator. And then I had amazing support from Zsuzsa, who is the Hungarian set decorator. So it was really a double act of myself, Zsuzsa, and her team. And I had a UK assistant as well, that were the principal set decorators, really.
But I mean, we all work together. I mean,
Yeah.
I, I, I don't know how much time I spend more time with the production designers than I do my husband. I know that. So
Great. Yeah. No,
you're you're
yeah.
you're a
They're
fourth
intense relationship.
family. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, so that's how it ended up being managed, really. But this was our principal set build. Um,
the house.
this house, yeah. And it was two builds with a staircase. So it was split. We had the attic and bedrooms on one layered set, and then this kitchen was part of the full staircase and the parlor.
Mm. I too want to talk about the palette that you have,
Yeah.
and wondering if that is, I mean, it's period and it's you have the French colors in there and everything like that. But is it more influenced by the story or because she's blind? Like, were these things that came into play?
So with me, color is sort of instinctive. When I read a script, I see colors.
Mhm.
That sounds very abstract, but
Oh,
it's a gut response to a script usually. And then through the process of creating the lookbook for the director, and when I'm sort of pulling images and putting them together, and then once I start printing them out and putting them up so you can see everything together, a palette kind of emerges. So it's an instinctive thing. And so these sort of muted blues and the pinks and the yellows, they all came out of my initial response and the images that I was responding to. I mean, this blue is particularly French. And Sean was very passionate about this color. And then this kind of French gray, which is quite a traditional color for sort of provincial homes. So it was there in a lot of reference, and then you turn it up and turn it down when you want to and play with it. So it's there's an instinctive level to it, but also there's a research element to it as well.
the I saw one video of the actors walking in the set and
Mhm.
talking about the flooring and the
Yes.
unevenness of the tiles and how authentic all the sets were. So bravo for that. The actors are still talking about it.
Well, that's lovely. I love bringing real elements into a set, whether that's found objects, architectural salvage, real tiles, wherever you can, that they bring a quality to a set, particularly a set that you're going to be in for such a long time. And we were in there, and that it gives a layer of authenticity for the actors, for lighting, the way light bounces off real objects. You know, you can have the most skilled painters,
Yeah.
but somehow, sometimes that real patina of authentic items just it transcends and moves a set into a different place, and that's sometimes helps blur the line for an audience being able to know it's real or not, whether it's real or not. So yeah, so these were real tiles. There's a lot of real timber in this set. Yeah, and so spliced together with obviously beautiful construction work and even better scenic painting.
Yeah, I mean, and that fireplace is so amazing and so
Yeah,
authentic to like, well, this is what they did. They had this is where they cooked. This is what it
yeah,
was. But it's
yeah.
so it's not even overpowering the room. It's just another character in there. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and that was lifted from a reference photo. You know, when I found it, I was like, that's got to go into the kitchen.
Um,
And also captivating that this house has had a life before this family. So you find and still today in provincial French homes that you might have the original fireplace. Then you have the modern stove and the new way of cooking.
right.
But particularly in this period and in rural homes, quite often you might find that, you know, the matriarch of the family is still cooking on the old traditional ways on an open fire, and some traditional French dishes are still cooked like that. And then also they have modern appliances, and in this particular period, the family have a gas
Yeah.
stove as well.
Was there anything particular in the design of like the flow of these rooms that you broke away from a traditional thing, not just for camera, but for the actors?
Yes, I mean uh, there's a slight exaggeration of scale. That's to make it comfortable for everyone to work in. So there's that. And probably just the orientation of rooms and staircases so that you can flow from staircase to room, and camera can be in a position where you get depth. I love depth. So there's
Yeah.
probably an artificial depth to the arrangement of rooms, so that camera can be in the kitchen and look through and the hall and catch the bottom of the stairs and the front door. Whereas a lot of the way those houses are built is actually, you know, it's room and then room and then room and then room, and you don't really see the connectivity. There's a more practical, so there's a much more artistic approach to how you arrange the rooms in order to get and invite beautiful shots from the camera team.
There's also this, I know it's almost props, but I know that you
Yeah,
were I know you had to be involved in this.
yeah,
And it's such a story point. It's
yes,
I mean, this is
yeah,
it kind of not to give anything away, but there's something
no,
very valuable in here. But
yes,
um that this also included some stunts with it
yep,
at
yeah,
the
it
end
did.
and everything. I
Yes,
mean,
yep,
there's a lot of intricacy in this model that I'm sure was discussed in many meetings.
it was. The first debate was the scale of it, how to get the right scale so that it had a presence, but also was practical in that you could use it. So there was many a debate about that, and I think the first thing we did, we plotted a layout and in various scales, and then that was put on a table in the art department, and then, you know, somebody made little kind of cardboard houses, and we played with scale, and then working out that it had to be beautiful to look at, but also it had to be believable that it was fit for purpose, and the fact that we could, you know, believe that she was mapping out her journeys through. And then we explored various different ways of making it. We were 3D printing at one point, and that wasn't quite working. And then it was being carved out of polystyrene at one point, and that wasn't working. And in the end, it was handmade, and it's made out of wood. And several model makers spent a good amount of time building this beautiful, beautiful thing that you see.
I hope someone took that home.
I think it's sitting in a crate in LA somewhere.
I think,
But then it was also important to explore how it would have been made, what it had been made of. So, which is why when you see detail, the idea was it was everything that could be that her father could lay his hands on. So the idea is it's made from vegetable crates and wine boxes and wine crates, and that's why there's the beautiful graphics all over it.
the writing, you can see.
Yes, all of that. Yeah.
No, the
Yeah.
detail
And
and the age on it. I mean, aging things like this is really important too, because it's not, those crates weren't new, you know what I mean?
yes.
It's so well done.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was nerve-wracking, and there was, as you say, there was a lot of meetings. And then I think the day I was supposed to present it, I think they were running with it. It was put beside the stage where they were shooting, and I was very tense, and because everyone was coming to look at it, and then I think they overran on something, so that then it wasn't. My meeting was cancelled, and then actually I think in the end it happened really spontaneously without the pressure, and it was all fine.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's sometimes the best way. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Let's just talk about it. Let's just come over to my office and we'll chat. Yeah. We don't need everyone there. The other thing that strikes me in this, and this is a video that the actors are doing, but this is the scene. This wallpaper and these textures that you've given to this room.
It's silk on the walls.
Oh, it's so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it was obscenely expensive, that silk.
Whatever. It looks great.
But I thought absolutely worth it.
Oh,
It's very common for French homes to put fabric on the walls, and that lasts for a good couple of centuries, and went right through, and you still find old homes which have fabric on the walls. So that was instinctive, and then just getting the warmth and that beautiful sort of pink color. It was a French fabric house that I went to, and just it's kind of one of those things. I'm sure you have it as a decorator. You see something and you just go, "That's it.
That's
there
it.
is.
And
That's
then
it."
you build around it. Like you're like, I have to do this, and then I'll make cuts wherever I need to. But this is what this needs to happen.
And then I'd chosen the fabric, and then the two chairs that you see behind Mark, that was part of a salon suite that we found on French eBay. That was then, when I saw it, it was like the perfect color. So that was a serendipity that we did that. There's so much furniture from eBay on this set. Extraordinary amount. We went shopping with French eBay, and because we had a French side to the production, I was collating things and putting them into a warehouse, and then we had a big truck that drove to Hungary with all these beautiful, exquisite French pieces of furniture that were authentic and also specific to the area that we were supposed to be in. So there's some bigger bits of furniture, heavily carved, that are specific to that part of France.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's amazing. I mean, I use eBay and Craigslist, and like First Dibs and Cherish never quite seem to work out for me, like shipping wise, price wise, but I love looking on there.
We all get lost looking, and then when they come back to reality and go, okay.
There's got to be a knockoff somewhere on eBay or
exactly. And then I think sometimes I kind of, you go home and I get, the kids go to bed and I'm sat there kind of lost searching, endlessly doing search engines on eBay or Craigslist. And then I arrive in the office with a big pile of printouts going, yeah, I've just found all of those. I think that'll,
We'll make it work.
yeah,
I believe you did a Q&A in Los Angeles in December,
yes,
and I had missed it, and my friend went
yeah.
to it, but she heard you talk about the attic, and I believe that you had taken wood
We
from
bought a barn.
yeah, you bought a barn and used all
Bought,
that repurposed wood. How
yeah,
genius, how
yeah.
wonderful to make that
Um,
live again.
Again, it's actually remarkably reasonable to buy things like that. I'd actually done it before on another production in the UK, and it had shocked me how cost effective it was. So by doing it, you gain all that beautiful timber, and it is just, I mean, irreplaceable. To try and create it with the most skilled plasterers and painters, it's just something very special about it. So I was very lucky. Our construction manager, when I had waxed lyrical about my love for authenticity and real things, uh, after he'd showed me a a molded foam beam and a plaster beam, and I'd gone, yeah, they're lovely. But
Yeah.
anyone ever talk about real stuff here? And to his credit, he went on the quest, and so we ended up with this amazing timber. And what was particularly special was when Aria first stepped onto the set, she could smell it.
Oh, that's
Uh,
fantastic.
Yeah, so that was a very moving moment because it was an extraordinary experience working with somebody who experiences the world in a very different way. And, my whole career is based on my sight.
Yeah.
And it was very humbling um, to be to be taken on a journey where I was kind of educated and learned to experience the world in a slightly different way. I mean, a very different way. And even from explaining sets in a way that was non-sighted.
Mm,
So all the things we take for granted. So it became about smell, texture,
right.
um, sound, the how the sound vibrates around a room. That's when the floor texture came into play. That's when the sound the floor made when Aria walked on it. All of those things um, took on a new importance, which was, it was an extraordinary journey to go on as a designer.
That strikes me so much because we are so visual. And yeah,
Yes.
you do feel textures and you do all
Yeah.
that. But even in this shot, I think to myself, my God, she doesn't even know like a camera could be like 5 feet from her face. You know what I mean? It's so
Yeah.
intrusive filmmaking,
Yes.
really.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not this. Do you know what I mean? This is your set. This is
Yeah.
everything. It's just gorgeous. But when all the lights and the bounce come in and everything,
Mhm.
it makes such a different feeling. I can't
Yeah.
imagine the feeling for her of like trying to suss out the space that you've
Yes.
created so wonderfully, but then having like a dolly
So
track. You know what I mean?
Aria,
Like,
Aria
a
was
bummer.
Aria was remarkable. So she spent time on the sets when no one was there,
Mm,
or either myself or Sean was there, and she would negotiate and familiarize herself and commit it to her memory, and then it was no longer an issue. So it was that was extraordinary. Obviously, on the day to day,
yeah.
when everything's getting pulled apart, things change. But watching Aria commit spaces to her memory was, yeah, it was another one of those kind of very kind of special moments when kind of I was learning to experience everything a bit differently.
I did not read the book. I know, bad,
Yep.
bad girl. But
That's okay.
is the design of this so specific in the book also, as this is of the worn down and the like the ships and everything? Is this
No,
something
no, that
taken?
was that.
That's you. Yeah.
No, yeah, that was yeah. It was trying to capture the idea of a man who had once been, had the freedom and had experienced the world, and then through the trauma of war was then this space was his world, and he was so learned, and his voice was traveling the globe. So it was how we brought those elements of the world into in a sort of slightly exaggerated, but also a sort of a real way that these dioramas of ships and that actually they exist, but having them in that quantity and just bringing the world into this space so that we could have a landscape that would kind of give the audience something every time we're in there, because we're in there so much. And then that it was his domain, and at the same time it was the attic of the house, so there was the history of the house was in the attic as well. And then he'd made the space in the middle for him, and that was clean, but everything else as you went out was more dusty. His sister doesn't really come in. She dusts a little bit, but doesn't really come in. It was really his domain. So that's where it came out from.
There's so much character in it. There's like every little nook and cranny is so much character, and so much of the structure is the character. It's so
Yeah,
beautiful. So
yeah.
beautiful.
No,
Um,
it was a lot of fun to create. Oh,
and
there
then
you
I
go.
love, God, I love a model. I love models. I love models. I love a foam core model.
I mean, what that shows you is obviously the structure, but what that doesn't show you is that that attic was 3 stories in the air, two and a
Oh,
half stories in the air. So we had the staircase going up to it, the landing, and then the half landing and the bedroom. So it was actually very, very high.
oh wow.
Um, and it was something I was so fixated on having a staircase in the house. There
I
was
think
a
I
there's
have that. Wait, this.
yes, yeah.
Oh my
So
God, it's gorgeous. So
there's
gorgeous.
there's a brief description. There's several descriptions in the book of the house that are quite throwaway. One was that the house was like uh, a spiral shell stood on its end.
Mm.
And I read that, and then I knew the script, and I thought, this is what I've got. This staircase is so vital to the atmosphere of this house, the comings, the goings, and particularly the scene at the end where we have all the menace and the threat.
Mm.
And it was something, thankfully, Sean got behind. And we did a foam model, and then we did a digital model to show how the camera could use that space and develop into a whole heap of a different way of shooting all these scenes. So yeah, that was very exciting.
Like this, like I feel as a viewer, you look at this, and maybe if you're thinking about it, you're like, well, look at the location they found here.
Yeah,
Like, but
yeah,
this being
yeah.
a build is so
So
spectacular. It's, I mean,
so going back to your point about kind of changing things slightly. So this staircase is exaggerated in so much is the well in the middle. That's quite rare in houses of this type. Normally it's a very small, you know, gap down the middle, but obviously we opened it up, we stretched and broadened the staircase in order to get that amazing shot. Um,
there's so many stairs lately. Like I watched like Ripley and like this and
Yes, I know, but those are beautiful, real kind of. They pick the best locations
yeah,
all over Italy.
yeah,
I mean, stunning.
I know. I recently just watched this Orson Welles film. and there's a staircase in that, and just the
Yep.
shots and and with this, you know, with the window right there and getting the shadows and everything and making
Yep.
it menacing, or like it's it's such a wonderful tool, staircases as a plot point too, because like the fear
Yeah.
of that, you're falling
Mhm.
down, you're running up, anything.
Yep. Yep.
It's such a great little
Yeah.
tool.
No,
I think when
it is.
directors shoot it correctly, yes.
And and then I think also when you I mean I love burying myself in research, and then when you're looking at old photos and you're looking, you know, at old kind of architectural drawings and things like that, and then you find the whimsy that you never thought existed. Say things like this window with the stairs kind of cross in front, you know.
Yeah,
Now, if I hadn't seen that in a reference, I would never have thought to do it, because I would have then done what I would have expected, that the window was more balanced in the wall,
right.
but because I saw a beautiful old photo, which I thought that's perfect. That's how I liked the treads
Yeah.
above, below, and then adds to the quirkiness of the the house, that it is this strange, rambling sort of character of its own, and then yeah, and then playing with wallpapers, which I love. So yeah,
It shows off that gorgeous wood floor too. I mean,
yes,
it
yeah,
really captures that
yeah,
too. Did I skip something? Oh, the blowing up of the room,
yeah.
which it's but so sad. But
That was
um,
part of Sean early on when we were talking about the poetry of the piece. The book is very poetic, and that Sean was very keen to capture that, that there was a lyricism and a poetry to the piece, and that in a way, the destruction of that beauty made it, you feel it, and that visual sense, you made it feel it viscerally. So not only is the tragedy of the characters, but also there is this other layer of this poetic beauty being destroyed as well.
yeah, and her whole world. I mean, that's her whole
Yeah,
world there. You
yeah,
just feel so bad that it's all happening to her. And it's just
yes,
guys running after. It's sad. This I loved. I actually I have little boys, and I believe when I went back to watch this, I was skimming, and I was like, look at the dinosaur, look at the and like look at this, like this is a location that you built all this in, and
yeah.
then
So
jewelry room.
this is a library
Mm,
in Budapest,
mm.
uh, who couldn't have been more helpful. And
Oh,
we built the museum inside. So I think you can't quite see it from this photo, but you'll see all around the bottom layer, you can just see all the cabinets in the walls, with all
right.
there's various bones and things. Well, they were all bookcases, and the library beautifully removed all the books, thousands of books for us. And then we put the cabinet fronts on the bookcases and then filled them with various bones and fossils. And then I was lucky enough to find all those period museum cabinets.
Mm,
There was happened to be a supplier in the UK, uh, who had salvaged them from a museum. And so we snapped them up and we shipped them over to Hungary. And then a beautiful sculpting job on the Triceratops and the T-Rex.
yeah. I mean, these are huge
Yes.
dresses of transforming a beautiful shell, a
Yeah.
beautiful
I
coating.
mean, all
But
credit to my team, because we had such time. You know, the nature of these beautiful locations is they have a lot of restrictions. You know, the financial cost of booking something and closing something. So the team were amazing in doing quite extensive dresses in very limited timeframes.
yeah,
Uh,
it's
yeah.
tough.
So
I love when they keep the business open and you're making it into something
yeah.
else, and the customers are
So,
walking by like, what's going down this aisle? Like what?
yeah, that happened on the street. There's actually a whole sequence that didn't make it into the show, where we turned a street we had a nighttime scene, but we turned it into an area of Paris called Pigalle, which is all nightclubs and restaurants.
Mhm.
That we just, it was like we were the entertainment. So we had crowds watching us
Yeah.
working. Yeah. Yeah. People
So it's,
walking down the middle of the set with their cameras, just kind of as if they were at a amusement park.
yeah, or trying to get in, or like when you're
Yes.
dressing something, people try to get in, and they're like, "Look at these dinosaurs!" Like,
Yeah.
oh, like,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's always great when the location's open to the public. But
Yeah.
now I'm assuming this was all a build-ish
Yeah.
or add-on.
Yeah.
This was all a build, right?
That was all a build. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
huge. It's a tank. Were you in a tank? How did you do
Yeah,
that?
we were in a tank, a small exterior tank. In fact, actually, there are pictures of how big we ended up.
Oh,
And we had a huge tent over the whole thing. But yeah, yeah, this was a challenge, this set, to say the least. The
because there's
challenge,
stunts in there and making it safe
yeah,
for the actors
making it safe for
and
because
the
obviously
camera.
it's alien for most of the sighted members of crew, you know, working in water,
Yeah.
uh, and let alone when, you know, you have to consider Aria. So yeah, so all those walls are rubber.
Mm. Oh, wow.
So so
Sculpted
that
out of rubber?
yeah, so we bought loads and loads of oysters. They were then mounted and molds were taken. And it meant that there could be an organic nature to any of the fight sequences. And we didn't have to worry about hitting a mark or making sure, you know, there was this section of wall, because that's all. So yeah, huge swathes of this were all made out of rubber. And testament to my painters, because yeah, it's flawless. And then then having the floor is perforated steel to allow for the water to go up and down, but also to give Aria and it's rubberized. It was rubberized as well, so that Aria had was completely sure of foot. There was no obstacles to her. So once you come down, she has an entrance down a quite a tricky staircase,
Right.
which she more than happy to do. I was so worried that I would lose the artistry and creativity of the staircase because of practicalities. But Aria was amazing. And then once she stepped off that and into the water, it was completely smooth, rubberized, just to give her as much confidence to feel that she was capable of doing anything in that space.
That's how big was this? How many stages did you have?
We had two stages and a tank. And on one stage we had the house, and on the other stage we had four sets. So it was three, then one came down, and then we built another, and then this was out in the on the exterior tank.
I know what I forgot to put in here was that bar. I forgot.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that bar. I forgot to put a picture in. It's that was a build, right?
that was a build as well. Yeah.
I mean,
So, our builds were the hotel bees, the bar, the museum vault,
oh,
uh,
wow.
the bakery, the back room of the bakery, again where the bombs go off, the cellar with all the where the radio where the radio where they're working on the radio and the bomb ceiling collapses. So that was those, and then the house, and then yeah, this,
But then you had like you
and
had,
then
and you built this
yes,
bridge, right?
yes, yeah. So uh,
This is this outside? Or is this
yes,
inside?
it's out. No, it's outside. So San
Oh,
Marlo is got this amazing fortified wall all the way around it, and we had every intention of going and shooting as much as we could in San Marlo, but it soon became apparent that it was just not going to happen. San Marlo, it was the height of summer. It's one of the, you know, a huge tourist
okay.
a place. You know, everyone. So it became apparent that I would need to build a section of the wall. So this was a facsimile of a section of the wall of Saint Malo that we could then do, and we built it, on the back lot in Budapest. And then what we did was we went to Saint Malo and we filmed on one of the beaches there, so we could, it was really important for everyone that we actually shot something in Saint Malo because the book is so,
Right.
but we only shot the beach, and then we found an alternative town for our version of Saint Malo.
The location where the buildings are like crumbled and everything.
Yes.
That big, were there buildings there that were like half blown up, or or those builds? Like I was like, where did they get
So, so are you talking about in the streets of the town after the bombing raids?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all construction. That's all, we were blessed again. We went to a town in south of France. It's called Villefranche-de-Rouergue, and they rolled out the red carpet for us. It's a stunning town, but somehow has not quite made it onto the tourist routes.
Let me write that down.
Yeah.
Did that. There's a
And,
winery.
sorry?
They got a winery.
Oh, it's a beautiful part of the world. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
part of France. But it's just, and so it's unspoiled streets and streets of beautiful old buildings. And they just let me go to town. So we, obviously we refronted endless businesses, and we put up shutters and we closed businesses, or we redressed their shop windows. And so we they let me, that square that we're in is medieval in Oregon. There's a huge cathedral, stunning cathedral in the square, and yet they let me burn a carousel in the middle of medieval square, and burn cars, and they couldn't have been more helpful.
Oh, that's great.
So those big piles of rubble,
Yeah.
they're all lightweight. They were all made of, a frame structure with canvas and sculpted rubble on the top, beautifully painted. And then on top, we did a wonderful layer of the broken furniture and the people's possessions and all of those things that would then lay. It meant that at any given time, because we had a rolling schedule of road closures. So when we finished, we had to then open roads that then people, either pedestrians or indeed traffic, could utilize. So it was like a kit of parts. So I think I had A to F of different shapes, and each configuration was we've got A and B here and J, and so it was a kit of parts.
It's always whenever you see like war aftermath movies,
Yeah.
it's always like, man, I always think like, now is it just they CG that, or like how did they get that? Because you assume a lot of the times that these buildings have been either torn down or rebuilt. So finding things.
We had a CG augmentation, and there are some set extensions. So when you see in the deeper background, completely collapsed buildings, but everything kind of foreground or midground, most of that is practical.
Wow, it's such a big dress. It's such a huge dress. I know it. It is.
Yeah.
I love the blue green here.
Yeah.
And the way that all the wardrobe and the characters just pop off of this blue. Was this exterior in that specific town? Or, yeah.
So I think that shot's in Villefranche. So we found the square where we put the hunt for the house took ages to find the perfect exterior. And we found that beautiful square. And this was actually a big shop window that we took out.
Hmm.
Yeah, and put obviously our set into the archway. Um, the rest of the house was absolutely perfect, but there was a modern sort of shop window and door in this archway.
But you can never find anything perfect.
No, exactly. That's part of the
That's
fun.
the fun. Yeah, that's the fun
Yeah,
of it.
I'm going to, we're going to take that window out. We're going to paint that house. We're going to, sign right. And there was a couple of shops that well, it's more than a couple of shops that we did a makeover on in this town that were empty, and had been boarded up or they'd been fly posted and things like that. And the mayor actively asked us to leave. So there in this town, there are now remnants of our shoot with some
Oh,
period
that's a
shop.
compliment. That's a huge compliment.
Yeah, just yeah. So we kind of left a little mark and contributed a bit to just lifting the town.
Did you have uh, any sort of huge obstacles in this that we were like, we can't, and then you do. Was there anything like location wise or set wise that you felt like it was almost nearly impossible for us to get this done, and but we did it?
I mean, the grotto was probably there was so many conversations, endless about the scale, how we would approach it, how to get the water moving, and the complications of having the challenges of Aria being able to be comfortable. So that was probably the set that had the most conversations about it. Models, digital models, endless kind of, how do we do this? How do we do that? And then, of course, the challenge, poor Tobias. I'm building a grotto and there are no windows. So
Right.
how did we kind of give Tobias a fighting chance of getting some light in here?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, not with that. That was probably, but everything else, like my wildest kind of, I want to can I burn a set fire to build a carousel and set fire to a carousel in the middle of this town and expecting everyone to just laugh at me and go, it'd be so ridiculous. And getting the sign off from the town and the mayor. And they go, yeah, that's fine. And of course, I showed Sean a reference image of a carousel on fire, and he went, "You're going to put that in that scene?" I'm going, "Yes." And he said, "And they're letting you." And I'm going, "Yes." So it's testament to Grey Locations team, who really went to bat for me whenever there was a challenge, like setting fire to cars in the town or blocking streets. They really got behind the spirit of the show. Um, and nothing was too much trouble. So then suddenly, the danger when that happens for a designer is that I keep moving the goalposts and ask for a bit more and ask
Well,
for a bit
yeah.
more.